Eddie Radosevich here, the Defining Moment podcast. Had a great conversation this week. I think maybe learning a little bit about myself that maybe you all probably wouldn't know about Eddie Radosevich. I'm going third person on you. We had a great conversation, though. It was a lot of fun to be a part of, something that I've always, obviously seen on social media. It was good to get in studio today, chop it up, and hopefully you learned a little bit about me. We do cut it up, a little bit. There is some fun parts about it. But I think there's a little bit of a serious side that you probably wouldn't realize when you see all my BS out on Twitter and social media. So a good podcast this week. I'm a little bit biased, but I think you'll enjoy it.
I'm gonna stand. I won't be seated. Gonna hold my head up high and stay undefeated. Defining moments on this pod. I'm American by the grace of my good God.
All right, well, we're going to start off with this gift. Eddie Radosevich. This is
awesome.
The swag bag.
Oh my
you,
gosh.
Man.
This is great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's a lot of stuff.
Hey, man.
I appreciate it.
We've been following you for quite a while, actually.
Yeah.
Through Twitter, when it was Twitter.
Sure.
And so I was like, man, this guy knows a lot about a lot.
I act like I know a lot about him a lot.
Well, when you talk,
yeah,
the substance is there.
We're trying to convince people that I know a lot about a lot, but no, it's been crazy. I mean, I definitely today where I am today because of social media, and as bad as it is, as bad as like last night was when OU doesn't make the NCAA tournament. Yeah, it's just like, God, I want to get off this thing. I have been fortunate enough to kind of base a career and a following off of social media. So
yeah. Because I remember when you're on social media or on Twitter, and then I could see the rise and the popularity and the tweets that you're putting out there and posts you're putting out there, people were interacting with us. Like, man, this makes sense. Yeah. And you moved away for a while, didn't you?
No, I mean, I've lived here in Oklahoma City. I've lived in Norman or Oklahoma City my entire life. So I think that's one thing too, that like from a social media aspect, I usually dig real deep on the nostalgia factor for a lot of people. And, whether it be like talking about Coach Tubbs, even though I, probably was way too young for that. Sure. But it's Sampson for me. And the idea of OU athletics kind of being a fiber within the community has always kind of been a passion of mine. And being able to kind of intertwine that. And then you throw in a little bit of Thunder basketball that everybody can get behind, whether it be OSU or OU fans, or Tulsa fans, for that matter. It's been kind of fun here over the last couple of years.
Sure, yeah. I'm with you on. I was on the tail end of Coach Tubbs' era into the Coach Sampson era, and I loved his intensity. Yeah. I mean, it almost followed Coach Tubbs to a T. Sure, almost.
It was crazy, and I think that like Kruger caught kind of lightning in a bottle too. He got that buddy group was so special, and it kind of goes back to like. Maybe that was one of the final instances of a group that you could see really like kind of grow before your eyes. Because I remember like Buddy, even as a freshman, it was like you saw flashes and you thought, okay, this guy might be somebody. And then on top of just the rise that he made from his freshman to sophomore to junior years, it was incredible. Yeah, and that was a special group. We just had Ryan Spangler on. One of the YouTube shows that we do on Sooner Scoop, and
that's cool.
Like it was like that was like from a nostalgia factor. That was it was awesome to get kind of back to those. Even though it feels like it was just yesterday, get back to 8 years ago when Oklahoma was making runs in the NCAA tournament, as opposed to the kind of the hell that Oklahoma fans woke up to on Monday morning, not getting their name announced,
making deeper runs.
Yeah. At least just getting into the tournament, which was supposed to be kind of like the barometer this year, and everything that happened over the weekend was just so bad. It was just so bad for Oklahoma, whether it be NC State going for 5 days in a row and winning the ACC tournament, or New Mexico winning the Mountain West, or Duquesne making a run through the A10. It's just like every single thing that needed to happen in this like 5% chance that we talked about last week of them not making the NCAA tournament, they all happened. Yeah. It was almost like a perfect storm of terrible luck on top of, a month of really bad basketball that they just weren't able to win enough games.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest point, is that last month of basketball for the Sooners.
Yeah, you can't, I mean, you were hoping that you were going to be on the right side of the bubble because of what you had accomplished going into the month of January and then even in February, and it just kind of added up at the wrong time that not only did you have injuries to Javen McCollum and Rivaldo Suarez and John Hughley, but you had everything else that went into playing in a really tough conference, not being able to get over the hump against whether it be Houston or the Kansas game or the Texas Tech game down in Norman still lingers. If they just win, they literally fell one game short of making the NCAA tournament. I would imagine that for somebody like Porter Moser, Rivaldo Suarez, I felt awful for last night because he transferred to Oklahoma to make the NCAA tournament. And then ironically, or I guess coincidentally, it's Oregon, his former school, that makes the runs through the Pac-12 tournament to keep him out. So it's a rough spot right now for the OU basketball program. Just with I think just in general, it seems like, I wouldn't say like animosity, but like the anger within the fan base to miss a third consecutive year of the NCAA tournament. It's certainly not where it needs to be. And it's hard to build momentum every time that you fill up the Lloyd Noble Center and then you fall short.
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially I remember, and you guys talked about it on the radio, is the Texas and then losing Texas Tech back to back.
Yeah, that was kind of like the turning point in a season that it felt like if you could just, because at the time there, I think they were a game over 500. You still were kind of coming out of a really good non-conference run. I think at like 16-5 overall, and then all of a sudden you look up and you lost 6 of 8 to finish the year, and kind of put yourself into a corner that if you would have just played better at the front end of the Big 12 schedule, you probably wouldn't be in, and you'd probably be talking about getting ready for an NCAA tournament game coming up on Thursday or Friday this week.
That's true. That's
sucks.
true. It does, man.
It sucks. I think that like the Oklahoma fan base just in general, I think has been like so like just kind of toyed with as far as their emotions, whether it be from the football side of things or the basketball side of things. Luckily, you have a really good softball team right now that is playing extremely well as baseball's playing really well. So I don't know. It's kind of an interesting time, like covering Oklahoma athletics with everything that, like all the movement, obviously within the Big 12 to the SEC. It all starting to feel a little bit more real once we get closer and closer to that, official moving date.
Yeah. We're going to get back into sports, but I want to get into your personal side a little bit, man. How do you start your mornings before you go on the radio?
Oh, man. Think about why I'm doing morning radio, being a person that never was a morning person. It is kind of crazy, like just the, I guess, organic rise, if you will, that I did. Because I started just doing fill-in work at the franchise and, ended up kind of taking advantage of some of those roles. Just kind of got my feet wet a little bit in radio. We'd been doing the podcast with Sooner Scoop for a while before that. And I ended up started doing radio. I was just going to be the fourth guy on the morning show with Mike Steely and Andrew Gilman and Jesse Stone. And then all of a sudden it went from like a fourth guy and like kind of having a little bit of a role to COVID hitting, and they condensed the staff, unfortunately, and it just basically woke up one day and it was all of a sudden it was going to be like me and Todd Lisby, and it was basically our show. Man. And I certainly it's what I've always wanted to do, be in the Oklahoma radio landscape or the scene, and so there was a point of me that like was really excited about that, but I don't think that I'm ever going to get used to exactly like the hours and doing the radio at 6 a.m. And it's just it's a unique experience, and especially during basketball season when we'll be down at the Lloyd Noble Center for an 8 o'clock tip off, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's 10:30, 11 o'clock. You're covering a Thunder game, and it's like, okay, well, I need to probably shut this down because I need to get up in 4 hours or 5 hours. So it's tough. A lot of coffee, a lot of like just thinking, okay, you can get through this hour. And then you kind of recycle it and say, okay, you can get through this next hour. And then all of a sudden 4 hours is gone. But I'm thankful. If that's like the biggest complaint that I have about waking up in the morning in a job per se, it's so much better than having to go to an office or anything like that. So it's definitely a unique lifestyle. That's for sure.
Man, for sure. So you went from the fourth spot to the number one spot, kind of like a Brock Purdy from Mr. Irrelevant to Mr. Super Relevant.
I mean, kind of, probably. I mean, I was probably like an undrafted free agent, though. I don't even know if I was the Mr. Irrelevant in the NFL draft. It's been fun. I mean, I'm thankful that I work with some people that make it fun every day and that kind of stuff. But and I think like here in Oklahoma too, it's such a fabric. Like sports scene is such a big deal that we can kind of cut up and do some stuff every once in a while that's not specific to sports.
Yeah.
But for the Oklahoma football fan, that's a 365, 24/7 type of deal, and it never really truly stops.
Yeah.
The power that be. So it's fun, but I also understand like the other side of it too, and the social media side of it, where when things aren't going well, it can be a rough space out there.
Let's get into social media,
sure.
Twitter, X, whatever they call it. But the social media side, OU fan base, man.
Sure.
Do you ever scroll through after we lose in any sport?
Oh, yeah. I think last night was a perfect example of it, where I think that there is a segment of people that are going to be unhappy regardless. They could win the national championship. Somebody's always going to be worrying about, well, they're not going to win it next year type of deal.
Oh, I got you.
Or the football fan that, 10 wins is just never good enough, which to a certain extent I get. Like, that's kind of the power that Oklahoma football has created, this kind of the monster that it is. But at the same time, I think that there's a lot of people that just really, truly like being unhinged and unhappy to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And I get that. Like, I get that from, because at the end of the day, it's sports. And I get that with the Thunder sometimes. It's like you sit back, and particularly here over the last couple of years when they're going through kind of the doldrums of the rebuild, it's like, well, me being a Cubs fan, it's like, I care more about this than the manager or the general manager or the players. Yeah. When in reality, it's kind of like the same thing with Oklahoma football. Nobody gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning during the summer to go through hell with Schmitty and then to lose, in the middle of October. Like, nobody signs up for that.
Sure.
But at the same time, it is like kind of one of those things. And I got to remind myself, as well as everybody else at the Scoop offices, I think reminds themselves, it's an outlet for people. Yeah. And there's a lot of good in it. And there's definitely a lot of bad in it. And you kind of just got to take it hand in hand and, step by step.
Yeah. How did you become a Cubs fan?
My dad's from Normal, Illinois, so it's kind of like ingrained within the family. So we're big Cubs fans, and it's been some trying times, but when you have a year like 2016, they win the World Series and stuff, it definitely made it worth it.
Right.
It kind of makes that chase in a way. It's like the Thunder are kind of like in the same sphere as far as like, of course, everybody around here wants to win a championship, but like once you get to the top of the mountain, you almost have like this like empty feeling of, okay, what's next? Because your team had just won it. So, of course, you want to win every year and all that kind of stuff.
For sure.
It's almost like the chase is more exciting than actually getting to the top. Now, Alabama fans and Georgia fans probably have a different experience at the top of like college football, but it's just a different feeling. Like, you want to have that chase, that feeling of not necessarily animosity, but just like the feeling of what happens if you don't win, versus like the feeling of absolute jubilation when you do win.
Well, it's like the Kansas City Chiefs fans. They got a lot. I mean, they're looking for a three-peat.
Sure. And I think that there is like this unhealthy thing that comes with winning championships or seeing your team win a championship that you almost, and I think like New England sports fans have probably felt this over the last couple of years where, you kind of don't realize how good you had it until it's gone. Yeah. And so you might as well like really enjoy that time now.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's I don't know. Sports is weird. Sports fandom is weird, I think, in and of itself.
Yeah.
Because you wait all year long, and particularly for like the Oklahoma football fan, you wait all year long. The off season sucks. Spring sucks because you're just like you're going through the practice, you're going through spring ball, and then when August hits, it's like you don't want to be happy until January because there's always something that you're chasing. You're always something that like you're nitpicking, whether it be a game or recruiting or anything like that. So it's a fun thing to follow, but it I think definitely is unhealthy at times.
Yeah, gotcha.
Which is good. I think it's like a good unhealthy.
Gotcha. I'm going to name a few sports, and I want you to tell me what's your least favorite and why. So we've got football, American football. We've got baseball. We've got basketball. And we have European football, also known as soccer in the United States of America. What's your least favorite sport to cover and why?
I mean, I've never covered soccer. I didn't grow up in the soccer sphere. I did have a appreciation for FIFA, like video games, playing that, in college or in high school and stuff. But I would say that that's probably my least favorite per se. But at the same time, like if I ever had the opportunity to go to a Premier League game or any type of World Cup game coming up here in a couple years in North America, I would go to that almost 10 times over a big college basketball game or something, just because maybe I've never been to a big time soccer match.
Yeah.
But I think it would be fun. I've never really grew up around the sport, so I don't really have an affinity for it. But
Gotcha.
I guess maybe later on over the last couple of years, I've started to just watch it more just in general.
Yeah.
Whether it be on a Saturday morning or something, but it has to be a big match.
Sure.
I wouldn't even say that I have a connection to any type of fandom.
Right.
If whoever, Man City or whoever the best team is, I'll watch them play, but I don't really understand it as much as maybe I do college football or something like that. I think that, with that said, college football, there's nothing like a big college football Saturday and waking up and either it being in Norman or, we're out on the road covering a game. I think that that's kind of what I grew up doing. Is my parents were season ticket holders at OU games. We grew up going to all the games. We would travel to some of the away games and stuff. And that was kind of how my life was basically centered around was college football. And that was even during the 90s when OU wasn't very good. Yeah. And I think that over the last, 20 years, Oklahoma fans have been spoiled rotten with really good football. But at the same time, I understand the frustration. I mean, I think the pressure is mounting now that you get further and further away from the 2000 year when they won the national championship. So that's, I think, kind of what has made this transition in the SEC so much fun is that there is so much passion for everything that is Oklahoma football, SEC, and just kind of the unknown of what you're signing up to go to. Yeah. But when you look at the schedule and you see Alabama or Tennessee or Ole Miss or, LSU, I think that any person that that enjoys the sport of college football and enjoys Oklahoma football specifically, I don't know how you couldn't be excited for the schedule 100%. That's coming up. It's the best home schedule OU's probably had in a decade, just with the names, just names alone. Yep. So college football is probably number one for me because I think college football Saturdays, it's uncompared, especially on a big game in a big setting. Yeah. That's about as good as it gets.
I love that, man. Number one, props to you because you said you would go to a big match. So in soccer, they call it matches. Yeah. So well done on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Got that right. Yes.
I'm a big fan of soccer. I played it my whole life, coached it, but I 100% agree with you. There's nothing like an OU football Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, I think
or
that
college football in general.
Yeah. And I OU Texas is such a unique, special event. Yeah. Josh Pate, one of the national guys, does a podcast, really successful for 24/7 and YouTube. He's kind of self-made. And I remember talking to him before kickoff. I think it was 2 years ago before the Caleb Williams game. And it was his first time at OU Texas. Oh, and it's little things about the Cotton Bowl that I don't ever think about. But he, pointed out, it's a stadium with no suites. Every person that's there is there sitting in the stands. I mean, they have the press box and stuff. Sure. And I think they have individual suites inside the stadium, but it's not like going to a Jerry World or going to Mercedes-Benz or wherever. It's just such a unique setting, and everybody being at the fair for that one day, it's an event that I think anybody that, whether you're an OU fan or a Texas fan or somebody that's covering the game, you look forward to that second Saturday in October, the first, Saturday in October nowadays, that it's truly a monumental moment of the year, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah. Did you envision doing this when you were younger? What was your kind of ideal job that you wanted when you were younger?
Well, I think when I was younger, I think the aspirations of, being a professional golfer, being a pro football player, those were the envisions. It was something to do with sport. And then I think as you get older and you get into high school and it's I'm probably not going to go pro in, these specific sports. I knew that I wanted to do some type of sports broadcasting. From a little age, that was definitely something that I wanted to be around. I wanted to be a part of. And I've been, pretty blessed and thankful that I've had that opportunity to kind of chase those dreams. Yeah. And I think that, it all kind of has culminated over the last couple of years, whether it be getting into radio or getting the opportunity with Sooner Scoop out of college. That I knew that's kind of what I wanted to do in a way. And as corny as it sounds to say that, I'm living kind of a dream that I've always wanted. It's true. And I think that specifically staying with the roots in Oklahoma and growing up and kind of understanding the fan base and understanding where people come from, just in terms of their sports fandom. Yeah. It's been kind of a fun little ride to be able to kind of live that and in, I guess, some way loosely be a a conduit or like a middleman between the fan and the team. So it's been a lot of fun. And what we've been able to build at Sooner Scoop, Kerry Murdoch and Josh McQuistion have kind of been understanding and helpful just in terms of letting me be myself and never really kind of getting into the way of like what we have built or worrying about something I was going to say. They've always kind of taken it in stride, and I've been super thankful for that, just for the fact that it's helped me build a brand, and in turn has helped Sooner Scoop kind of become bigger than what we were even 10 years ago.
Yeah. What was that moment like? So how did they find you on social media, and what led up to that? And then
so I kind of I was at school at OU, and by way of OU being pretty good at basketball during my senior year, me and another guy, Nate Fakin, he was actually teaching at OU. He was on Channel 4 for a while.
Yeah.
I kind of knew Kerry through that. Like, we started networking and kind of knowing each other. And at the same time, I was doing some stuff for Rivals.com. That was kind of like my first foot in the door type thing. It was back in the day when you would get a bunch of phone numbers and you would call kids and do like interviews with them about their recruitment. Nowadays, it's completely changed because all that stuff is already out there. Yeah. Kids are putting their own information out there. They're looking at themselves as a brand and trying to build that platform. But that was like back in the day that, you would kind of, you'd call a kid and, where have you been over the last couple of weeks? And they'd say, I've been to OU, OSU, and Texas. Okay, well, what did you like about those trips? And people were like really, really in tune with the recruitment of kids because there weren't as many people covering it, first off. Second off, you would, kind of develop these relationships with these kids, and you would continue to report on it and stuff like that. So, Sooner Scoop was with Rivals at the time. Jeremy Crabtree was the guy that I basically like begged to do anything to kind of get my foot in the door, and he finally gave me the opportunity. He was close with Kerry and Josh, and then that's how I ended up meeting Kerry, and the rest was history. They hired me right out of college, and I initially started doing a bunch of broadcast stuff. I was in the broadcast school, so I knew how to work a camera. That was at the time where like we were getting ready to expand and do some type of video stuff with Sooner Scoop, and Kerry knew that I could hold a camera and be somewhat competent in front of a camera, and it all kind of led into what we are today. And now it's become a pretty large operation. Got an office on Campus Corner. We're expanding that on Campus Corner into a second side building to do a studio, and it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
I enjoy listening to you on the radio.
I appreciate it.
You sound very knowledgeable. I mean, obviously you are. So how do you prep to sound so knowledgeable?
It's crazy. Like you would think that I would just sit around and like read all day, and I do to a certain extent. But I think because everything's so intertwined, Twitter's so intertwined with anything and everything that is on the sports side of things. It's kind of like a lifestyle, I guess, in a way. And I guess in a technically kind of a sad look at life, I'm a single dude, so there's not a whole lot that I have going on other than going home and watching sports at night. And I guess like that's a little pathetic in a way, but it's also kind of what I love to do.
Yeah. Who do you like to engage with on Twitter?
I mean, just about everybody. I think that is like the good side of Twitter. You can engage with a lot of people, and a lot of people that I've come across, both professionally and privately. It's usually a pretty good interaction. Yeah. And I think that like the people that really do take it to that next step of being rude or being nasty on Twitter, I'll throw it right back. I have no problem with that. And I think that like sometimes it gets caught like almost like the mistranslated in a way that I can come off as, a little bit of a a-hole in a way. But at the same time, like, I think that those same people, if you have a conversation with them in real life, if you see them over at the Jones Assembly, if you see them wherever out on town, it's a much easier communication. It's much like better conversation than would be just going back and forth and everybody's going at each other's necks. So I think that's the one thing too, is you've been able to come across a lot of people that from a lot of different walks of life that at the end of the day, whether it be OU football or whatever, or Thunder basketball or, whatever sport you're talking about, everybody wants the same thing. Yeah. They want to see their team win. They want to be able to go into the office the next day and, brag to their coworker, whether he goes to OSU or Texas or, from wherever. They want to be able to have that upper hand And I think that, some people just kind of take it. It's not real life. That's what I always remind myself, is that social media, to a certain extent, as much as it's given me, as much as it's given a lot of people the opportunity or the platform, it's just not real. Like there's a fakeness to it to a certain extent, that you got to wake up and whether it be in front of a microphone or a camera that you have to talk about every day, that affects a lot of people. Like, I don't think that Porter Moser wanted to miss the NCAA tournament. I don't think it's fun for him to have to go through that.
Yeah, that's true. You like golf?
Love golf.
What's your favorite golf player? And have you played at Pebble Beach, or you just wearing the hat?
No, my mom went out to Pebble Beach. I want to go someday. That she took a girls trip out there to Carmel.
Awesome.
And then proceeded for about the next month to tell me how great it was.
I bet.
Which I, became jealous of. Favorite Tiger. I mean, I grew up in the Tiger era, so I think that's like, I remember, 97 at the Masters. I remember calling my dad and talking about this, 19-year-old or 20-year-old that was
incredible.
He was playing unbelievable. He was going to win the Masters, and not really knowing anything about him. And then I think that everything that has come with the last 20 plus years of Tiger and kind of the Tiger era, I think every guy that, tees it up nowadays, you have some type of relationship back to watching Tiger play.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's been awesome to watch golf kind of evolve here over the last couple of years, and specifically in the state of Oklahoma, where I think that everybody around here knows it, but I don't think that people maybe outside of the state of Oklahoma realize how big the sport is here and how lucky we are to not only have great golf courses both on the public and private side, but we have great golfers that have decided to live here, whether it be out at Oak Tree or up at Karsten or Jimmy or wherever. It's like, we are very blessed right now, and especially with this crop of guys that are out on the PGA Tour right now, that have been awesome. It's really kind of cool to see the ambassadors, I guess you could say, of the sport of golf kind of go out and take it to a next level in the state of Oklahoma. And OU and OSU have been awesome too.
I was going to say, both golf teams.
Coach Hibble and everything that Oklahoma State's done under Coach Brandon, obviously Coach Holder, has been it's been incredible. It's awesome.
Yeah, even Oklahoma Christian has a really good men's golf team.
And I think that UCO, OCU, all the small schools around here, you will undoubtedly see some of these names, I'm sure, playing on the next level at some point over the next couple of years. And I think it's a product of playing in the wind. I really do. I think that there is something to it, that you can kind of have a complete game and be able to kind of grow up around here and know how to work your way around a golf course.
Yeah. Did you shed a tear in 2019 when Tiger Woods won the Masters?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I did too.
Absolutely.
When I watched it, oh man.
It's still like almost kind of chilling. And it was really cool because back in 2019, Mike Steele and I, we went out to Augusta. So we were there on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of that week. And that was my first time to ever go to Augusta. And, just walking into the place, which, I think everybody talks about it as like this place that's just like completely out of this world. And it was one of the few places I've been that it truly is like everything that people talk about. It is absolutely incredible. From the moment you walk in to, the famous concession stands where the prices are just incredible, to, just everything like around the greens, the manicure of Augusta National is incredible. And it was really cool to walk in. Like, one of the first groups that we saw on the Wednesday practice round, it was Tiger, Fred Couples, and Justin Thomas just walking down the first fairway. And it's just kind of like one of those like holy ass moments that, I was actually there. And then 5 days later to wake up and realize that he's going to be in contention to win the Masters. Yeah. It was incredible.
That's awesome.
Absolutely
man.
Awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Went to Berkman's place. Well, one of the like alternate places that they have off of 5 that it truly is like breathtaking.
Nice.
It was awesome.
That's so cool, man.
Cool.
That's an awesome experience.
It was an experience of a lifetime. Like I've told anybody that will listen, if you ever have an opportunity to go to Augusta, if you're even slightly, you don't even have to be a golf fan. If you're just a sports fan in general, do it. It's absolutely incredible. And I thought that like the one thing that, everybody talks about the undulations and how up and down it is. And it is, it's incredibly hard to walk. I don't understand. And I can't imagine how guys do it for 4 or 5 days in a row. But it was just, the whole thing was just, it was overwhelming almost to a certain extent. Yeah. And I thought that, like, one of the cool things about the Masters is, and I say it every time around this time of the year, is you can't take a phone in. So you don't have any like true access to the outside world. They have banks of phones that you can use. And I was like calling in and doing updates from the course on these phones.
Wow.
But everything else, you can't take, you don't have your camera out. So you're not looking at Twitter the entire time. You're not taking pictures of anything. You can take in like a regular camera on Wednesday during the practice rounds. But outside of that, there's nothing. And you're kind of locked in, and everybody is, it's very old fashioned in a way because everybody's locked in on the golf. Everybody's locked in on what's in front of you and kind of living in the moment.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Like
living in the moment.
I think that we definitely have gone so far away from that. And I'm a product of that myself, whether it be going to a Thunder game and everybody always has their phones out or wherever. It's a cool kind of step back in time of everybody just kind of living.
Yeah. That's really awesome, cool. Man. What does it mean to be an American?
I don't know. I think that it means that we can do stuff like this all the time.
Yeah.
And just be able to talk and kind of do what we want. And I think that that's kind of the fun part that, at least for me, I forget about sometimes how tough it is for everybody else outside of America. And, I think even we get so wrapped up into what's going to be an interesting political season, all that kind of stuff. And everybody's so divided that at the end of the day, I think that we usually forget that, like, the fun part about it is being able to fight about sports and being able to fight about, who the best offensive lineman in the country is and stuff like that. Stuff that is so meaningless in the grand scheme of things that we're lucky that we're able to kind of have that opportunity in a way.
That's true. That's true. What's your favorite position in football?
Ooh, probably on the offensive line, offensive line, defensive line. I think that those are the guys that usually start everything up front, and you usually overlook it until it becomes a big problem.
Yeah.
But I think that there is something special for especially for the offensive and defensive linemen that are so big, and to be able to move and do the things that I think a lot of people don't really truly feel are as athletic as maybe the wide receiver that's out there running to the burning speed, or the running back or the quarterback.
Yeah.
But I think that, those guys are the difference between winning national championships and not, or winning Super Bowls and not. And they probably don't get the due that they are deserved.
Yeah, that's so true. It's almost like it's underappreciated.
Sure. Yeah. I think that there is an underappreciation for it, unless you're really, really good. And then everybody wants to talk about it because that group is so good. And I don't think it's a coincidence that when you look at, the teams that have had all the success that they've had in college football as well as pro football, it's like it starts up front. It's so cliche, but at the same time, it's so true.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. They got to block. They got to open up holes. I mean, they got to hold the pocket.
Sure.
All that stuff.
Yeah. And I think that, like, it's few and far between of finding, like, those truly big time difference makers on the defensive line, specifically in college football. If you want to be really, really good, if you want to take that next step in the SEC, you have to be good up front. You just have to. It's a priority.
Right. Yeah. If you look back in your life, it's a very young life so far, but what are some of those defining moments for you that kind of helped you get to where you are today?
I think that you look back at particularly some stuff that we went through in high school. I had a friend that committed suicide, and that was like probably like the biggest moment in my life of the realness that I don't think that we ever thought that we were ever going to have to go through. And we had a really close-knit, group of friends that to this day, we're still all very, very tight. And I think that, that moment, as much as it sucked, it brought a bunch of us closer together, had conversations that we probably never would have imagined that we would have had at 16, 17, 18 years old. And I think that even today now, 20 plus years later, it still affects us, I think, in a different way, and maybe a little bit more open-minded to struggles that people have and the comfort or the level of uncomfortableness that comes with having really tough conversations and understanding where other people are coming from. I think that was probably, and especially at a place like growing up in Northwest Oklahoma City, at Putnam City North, that stuff just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I think that there was a certain level of realness that affected everybody in that grade, in my grade specifically, that we all kind of came together, and I think definitely grew from a tragedy in a certain way, a certain level.
Yeah.
And, I think it kind of resonated with a lot of people that you go back to those moments and you really had to like kind of battle and kind of get through a bunch of stuff and went through a bunch of counseling and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, maybe came out a little bit stronger than we thought that we would ever have come, or maybe closer than we ever would have come. And so, I think that was something that definitely played a big role in the younger portion of my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's actually really powerful.
Yeah,
wow.
It was really like one of those like kind of moments in life that you just never really expect. You never really, certainly don't wake up and think it's going to happen. But it's one of those moments too that you look back on and it's like feels like it was just yesterday.
Yeah. When you look back about that and suicide, when was the last time you had a hard conversation? No names, but
yeah. I mean, I think that like everybody kind of goes through things, and especially coming out of COVID, I think that there was so much just like weirdness in the world at that point that you didn't really know what was going to happen. And I think that it's good to have those types of conversations, especially with close friends, maybe even friends that you don't necessarily see as close. I think that that was the one thing that always came back was having conversations with people and being able to connect with people at a certain level and have a openness to be able to talk to that about somebody that maybe doesn't understand where you're coming from or where you don't understand where they're coming from, but at the same time having a human level of interaction and being able to talk about tough times, talk about good times. I think that it is ultimately kind of important, not just for the person but for anybody. Mental health I think is certainly a big part of everything that I think that we do, and especially in the college athletics world where everything is so topsy-turvy right now with NIL, and I'm not comparing the two situations by any means, but I think that there is a toll that these kids take on, and I can understand where somebody's having a really rough time, or understand where somebody's coming from when when all we see on the outside looking in is somebody that's struggling at the foul line or somebody that's struggling to make tackles or something. It seems so minuscule in the grand scheme of things. But at the same time, it's like these kids are going through a lot of stuff that we could never even comprehend, whether it be on, the hate on social media or whatever. I can't imagine signing up for that.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. Well, to eliminate that, I guess you don't have to sign up on social media.
Yeah, you don't. But I think that we're all human to a certain extent. Sure. Everybody wants to know what's being said out there.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to have some type of grasp on, what they're involved with and how other people see it. As much as, I would say that, you do a YouTube show or something, you don't look at the comments. I think everybody looks at the comments. You have to look at the comments, and you take the bad with the good.
Well, 100%. You put yourself out there.
Sure.
You've got to be open to the criticism
100%.
as well
100%.
as the compliment. So
100%. And as good as it is to get a compliment for it's kind of funny. It's like how you could get 10 great comments. You're doing great. You're awesome. Yeah. But it's the one, kind of S comment that you look back on, and that's the one that bugs you. That's the one that like sticks in your side. And it's tough to kind of navigate that and know that like you can tell yourself that people like you and that you're loved, or that you don't care what people think. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you do care what people think. You just can't let it control you.
Sure. I like that. You can't let it control you.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing someone said to you on social media?
Oh man. I don't know. I'm such an easy target, overweight, single, people don't like you, stuff like that.
Really?
I mean, but it doesn't. You just can't let it affect you.
They attack you like that, though?
Yeah, I mean, they do. But at the same time, it kind of goes back to the idea that, like, social media, for the most part, is an outlet for people. It's kind of the same with message boards. It's an outlet for people to get something off their chest under a moniker or under an alias that typically, I would say, 95 to 97% of the time, not only do they probably not mean it, but they would never say that to you and to your face.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of things. You can go to a game, or you can send an angry tweet to somebody that doesn't perform well. I would say for the most part, that person's going to be the first person to slap their hand if they have it out at a game, if they're doing something right. And I think that you just kind of got to take it all with a grain of salt and realize that, as angry as some of those people are, you got it pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I think the psychology of some of people that get online and just are constantly like just being negative about everything. And I can be negative too. There's no doubt about that. But it just like, I think that there is a personal level that people try to take out on people to make themselves feel better. Yeah. I know that I've done it before. Yeah. And you never really feel like it's never fulfilling. You never feel great about it at the end of the day. But for that one moment in time when you're able to fire off some kind of, bad negative thought to somebody, it does make you feel a little bit better about the situation. Yeah. And I think that like just remembering that and knowing that it's probably not as serious as you think it is, that at least for me, that kind of helps me get through it.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
That's good. What are a couple questions you wish people would ask Eddie, but no one ever asked him?
Oh, man. Gosh, that's a good question. I think that it would probably just pertain to like, and not even a personal side of just like, are you okay or anything like that? Because I think that there's a lot of people that see my presence on social media or the presence that I have at Sooner Scoop or wherever on the radio. And it's, I think that to a certain extent, I've held this, I don't know about brand or whatever, but it's like I'm the funny guy. I'm the guy that's always supposed to be happy. But there are moments it's like you go through things, either privately or in front of a lot of people that you wish you wouldn't have said or you wish you would have handled differently. And I think that, you really have to not let something like that bug you. And, I think that, I have plenty of good friends and family that check in on me. I'm not saying that.
Right,
it's just, I think that there is like this level of when you live somewhat in the public eye, that you're supposed to always be okay. You're never supposed to be down. You're never supposed to be unhappy about something. And, I think that like that ideology is hard to live up to. You can't live up to that. Right. You can't be happy all the time. I go through bouts of depression just like anybody else. But at the same time, when you take a step back and you look at it from a bigger, landscape or whatever you want to call it, I think that, probably my qualms or beefs or whatever are very, very small compared to somebody else that, is, looking for their next meal or looking for a place to live or, anything like that. So I don't know though, like there's so much sport in my life and so many people that interact with me on a daily basis, whether it be on message boards or social media and stuff. I think that like it is hard to kind of live up to being present every day and not really ever being able to quote unquote log off. And I think that like that's probably the toughest part. And especially on days like yesterday when Oklahoma does make the NCAA tournament and people want answers, it's like I don't really have an answer for them. And I think that like the thing that I had to learn that was probably the toughest as a young reporter was being comfortable enough to say I don't know. And not just have something there to be providing content for somebody that, maybe necessarily, not to say that it's made up by any means, but just to say something to say something. I think that there's a lesson and learned in being able to shut up at the right time. And I'm still having trouble understanding like when that moment is, because I think that there is like a certain responsibility that comes with being on the radio or having the platform that I do of always being in the mix somehow, some way, but just knowing kind of where I need to shut up or when I need to, kind of voice my point or have the platform to do so. So it's kind of a tough juggling act, but I think that you kind of learn through trial and error, and the error sometimes is usually something that you definitely have to learn from. But I think that also at the same time, more than ever, I think the fan just in general wants somebody that can kind of you can celebrate with in moments of joy, and then also have somebody that is kind of like standing there with you in moments of sorrow. And I think that like that in a way, that's not necessarily what the reporter in you tells you to do, but I think that that is kind of the personality that I've created my brand on is being able to kind of be one within the fan, because there certainly is a professionalism that comes with it. But at the same time, I think that like more and more people are looking for people for their news from somebody that they feel like is one of them. And I think that there is certainly a role. It's evolved over the last couple of years. And I think that that's why we've had such great success at Sooner Scoop is because at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, of course, like when OU does well, that's great for us. That's great for business. I don't think that, like, I didn't have any pleasure in talking about, the state of the program of the basketball team today. I didn't have any pleasure in reporting on bad stuff that happens within the football program. Yeah. I always kind of go back to the Joe Mixon thing. Like, that was not fun at all to sit there and have to talk about that. But there is like a certain level of professionalism that I think that we all went back to the broadcast school or journalism school, that you have to, like, that reporter kind of instinct takes over and you have to talk about the bad. And that was, an awful moment. And it just is kind of one of those deals that you have to be able to communicate and talk about and report on without, having blinders on in a way.
Yeah, no, that's true. And when you talk about that Joe Mixon incident, I remember that vividly. It's like, oh man.
Yeah. And it was an awful situation.
Yeah.
That, nowadays there's no way that he would have been able to continue at Oklahoma. And, I think that everybody had their opinion on what needed to happen or all that kind of stuff. It was an awful, ugly moment for sure.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite OU moments? Football.
Oh man. I think that, like, specifically and kind of like where I rose the most just from a personal level as well as on a Sooner Scoop level, it's hard to get past like the 16, 17, 18, 19 years when not only was Oklahoma really, really good on the football field, but, I had some viral moments, whether it would be with Baker or Kyler, and they were always really cool about all that kind of stuff that we definitely took advantage of. It was kind of like the onset of really putting like viral media out there from a company standpoint. And it certainly helped that OU was good at football. Like that, there's no doubt about that. Like I think that, like, the Tennessee trip was awesome. Ohio State was awesome. Tallahassee all the way back in 2012 was awesome. Yeah. It's those moments that, I think for a Catholic kid growing up in Oklahoma City, going to South Bend, going to Notre Dame was a cool moment. Back in 2013, I believe, 2014, something like that. Those are the cool moments. And then, I think specifically here over the last couple of years, whether it be being down on the field for all these games, the OU Texas Caleb Williams game was unbelievable. Being around for that, I don't know if it'd be like a great moment in Oklahoma athletics history, but the whole like month-long Lincoln Riley saga was just incredible to watch from somewhat of a close perspective on everything and everything that kind of unfolded after that. That, I guess kind of culminated with Brent's arrival on the tarmac at Max Westheimer on that Sunday night. Like that's one of those moments that I think will always kind of stick with me. Yeah. Just that many people on a Sunday night to welcome a football coach. Like, who does that? Right. The 2016 Final Four run was really cool. I think from just a straight coverage standpoint, I was the only guy that was, not the only guy, but I was the only media member from Sooner Scoop up in Omaha for the College Baseball World Series run. And that was, I think, like one of the most unlikeliest like runs that an Oklahoma team has had. And then to look up and, I'm on like day 16 up in Omaha doing laundry in a hotel, like a laundromat. Yeah. It was just a surreal experience. The College World Series is a little bit like Augusta in a way of, if you've never been, even if you don't have any connection to the world of college baseball, go for one day. It's an incredible experience. It's kind of a religious experience, I think, for a lot of people that follow baseball closely. It was so much fun. I think that, those are kind of the moments that stick out to me the most. Yeah. I think that like Bedlam stuff over the last couple of years has been a lot of fun, going up to Stillwater for some of those games, being down on the field for, the highs and lows that Oklahoma's experienced up there at Boone Pickens. It's been fun. It's definitely going to be changing with everything that's going on with the realignment and the colleges kind of splitting apart from one another. But I think that those are kind of the moments that really come to mind. Like Ohio State was really, really cool. Lincoln was really cool 2 years ago for the OU Nebraska game, and just the history that comes with that game. So it's been fun. I mean, I think that like, as much as we complain about, Oklahoma going on the 23-year drought of no national championships and stuff like that, it's a cool thing to be able to call a job. It's because the fans that, whether you want to say that they're like out of control or not, it's a good thing at the end of the day, because it allows me to do what we do at Sooner Scoop. It allows me to be able to wake up and do radio in the morning because there is such a passion for college athletics in the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, as much as it could be seen as a burden, it's a really positive thing.
Yeah. Well, what you guys do at the station is I feel like you guys give people an outlet to listen to something besides politics or besides local things happening. Sports is an outlet for a lot of people. And
it's an entertainment factor too. I think, I think that for a lot of people around here, it's an outlet to be able to kind of get away from the day-to-day grind of their lives. And I think that, OU football certainly plays a role in a lot of people's lives, particularly in the state of Oklahoma. It's truly unique in a way, how big the sport has become and how big like the monster that Oklahoma football has become, or Oklahoma athletics, and to a certain extent. And it's a lot of fun to kind of be on the inside of that and follow it closely enough to be able to report on it, and not only have people that kind of not necessarily depend on what we say, but kind of trust us in a way that where they're getting their information from. It's completely changed just in terms of journalism over the last couple of years, with I think the internet certainly has helped play a role in that. But I think just kind of going back to, again, what we talked about earlier, was people get their information a lot differently than they did even when I started with Center Scoop 10 years ago. We've had to evolve. We've done more on the YouTube side of things. We were kind of late to the party on the YouTube stuff. Like I could never, even as young as I am and as connected as I am on the internet and all that kind of stuff, like, why would somebody ever want to watch a podcast? Like, I never understood that.
Yeah.
And then, as of the last 2 or 3 years, when we've started doing more and more and more, it's like, oh, okay, I understand it. I get it. And then I find myself watching YouTube more and more and more.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting how, like, everything has changed. You do Monday, Tuesday post-practice stuff, and you would try to get home as soon as possible, get everything up. Nowadays, everything's basically up by the time you get home.
Yeah.
So we've had, you have to find different avenues and how you kind of communicate the information. And I think that we've done a really good job of evolving with the times. And Carrie Murdoch has done an incredible job with the studios that we're building in Norman to kind of be able to kind of be that conduit or that communication device between the fans and the university. And I think it's going to evolve even more with the NIL space. And as it gets bigger, I think that, like, you have to adapt now or you're going to get left behind. And maybe if you haven't even already adapted, you probably have been left behind.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of interesting to see where that space is going to go moving forward in the world of college athletics, just in general, with everything that's out there in terms of the NCAA and what that's even going to be here in the next couple of years. It's really kind of interesting to watch it kind of change right in front of our eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. You're wearing a half-zip Barstool polo here.
Yeah.
It's a picture of a hot dog.
Yeah.
And hot dog bun.
Little Chicago dog.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on pineapple and pizza? Does pineapple belong on pizza?
I can't get there. But I would say that, like, I am very, very plain.
Okay.
Cheese pizza, pepperoni pizza.
Okay. I
mean, you're talking to somebody that, like, as of probably the last 5 years, just started getting stuff on my burgers, like lettuce, onion, ketchup. I used to be just give me meat and cheese only.
Yeah.
Plain. Very, very plain appetite, I would say. But yeah, I'm not much a pineapple on pizza guy. I don't know. There used to be we used to get pizza from Pizza Shuttle down in Norman. And I had a couple fraternity brothers, and one of them grew up in Norman, swore by sausage and onion pizza. I thought it was pretty disgusting. It's really not that bad.
Okay.
It's really not that bad. That's about as crazy as I'll get. I'll get meat lovers every once in a while, something like that. But if I had it my way, pepperoni or probably cheese.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm with you on the plain hamburger because you can't, I mean, if you dress the meat up, you can't taste the meat.
That's right. And I opened up to this whole new world of putting lettuce and onions, and I must say, like, I kind of like it.
Is that an excuse to get your veggies in? I mean, I don't know.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, it's that's a good excuse to have, definitely.
Yeah. If you were to have a cup of coffee with 3 different people, who would they be? And why?
Out of the sports scene or just anybody?
Anybody.
Dead or alive?
Either.
I think Tiger Woods would definitely be on there. I don't know if he would be drinking coffee. I don't know if he's a coffee guy. He might be Monster Energy. Could have a Monster Energy drink with him. Tiger, just because, I mean, favorite athlete of all time, probably.
Awesome. Yeah.
I think he's, far and away, like we talked about with all the golf stuff, has been incredible. Definitely was like the hero icon in my life growing up. It's a good question. I think that I'd want to get somebody in there that, I don't know about political side of things, just because it really isn't just terribly important to me, even though I know it's important. I just try. I don't know. I think that I look at politics kind of like how some people from that side of things look at sports, how it just kind of all dumbed down. But oh man, that's a good question. Barry Switzer probably be in there. I know that he's still alive, obviously. Every once in a while, I'll see him up at Midway Deli all the time in Norman.
That's cool.
He's usually there on Tuesday afternoons. Tiger, Barry, and let's go with... Man, that's a good question. I'll just throw another golfer out there then. Probably Jack Nicklaus.
Ooh.
I think that'd be a pretty good... maybe we could substitute the coffee for a milkshake at Jack's place with Tiger. Maybe that'd be the way to go. But I think that, all three of those would probably be pretty good options.
Oh, yeah.
I can't complain with any of them, at least.
Yeah, so you love Tiger, and I'm going to tell you his effect on me. So when I coached competitive soccer, we had two kids, so it's a black kit and a white kit, home and away. But I always wanted my teams to have a red kit because Sunday red was championship day.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so we did. And the last two teams that I had, we had red kits on Sundays, and
that's
we wore
so cool.
them. Yeah,
that's so cool.
That's the power.
Did they have the success rate that Tiger had?
The last team I coached, we did.
That's awesome.
We won quite a bit on Sundays.
That's cool.
A lot of tournaments. So
that's winning a lot of tournaments, I'm sure.
Yeah. So
that's awesome. What age group was it?
They were seniors. So I took them on their freshman year.
Okay.
So they were 14, 15 at the time, then all the way through their senior year. So.
I'm sure that's a good time.
Man.
It seems like the soccer scene in Oklahoma is probably a lot better than I realized.
Yeah.
I just don't follow it very often, but it always seems like teams are going off and you see little blurbs in the paper about, U17 doing really well at some kind of regional or a national thing. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you most proud of so far?
I think that I'm probably just most proud of kind of what we've been able to build at Sooner Scoop and going from what was basically a operation that we would, we all kind of ran out of our house to a certain extent, out of Carrie's house to a certain extent, into a pretty big media company. And I think that, it certainly has helped that, again, that there is a passion for Oklahoma athletics. It allows us to do a lot.
Sure.
But I think that what we've been able to do and just adapting to the ever-changing times of coverage and journalism just in general, has been pretty cool to watch. And I think that, with a vision that Carrie has had from the way that we deliver news to stuff that we've been able to do with the podcast and the stuff that we've been able to do with YouTube, I think the interest and the numbers that we have done, it certainly shows that, there's at least some people listening. Probably, more so than 5 that I would imagine that do outside of my parents. But I think that it has shown that we are doing something right. And it was kind of validating that, not to say that we're all in it for the validation or anything like that, but I think that it has shown that we were definitely onto something and the ability to grow. It's been a lot of fun. And I think that, we're all pretty proud of kind of the core that we have. And I think that, over the next couple of years, it's only going to get better and better as Oklahoma makes the move into the SEC, and it's going to allow us to do a lot more just in terms of what we do from a broadcast setup, from a studio that is currently under operation, going from, kind of what we are now, which is, basically kind of like in a closet in this office at the Sooner Scoop right now. So it's going to be really, really cool, I think, moving forward with what we've been able to build. And I think that kind of what we have for aspirations for the future and for, kind of the years to come in terms of how we're delivering stuff, how we're communicating with the OU fan base, how we're delivering news. It's going to be pretty, I think, kind of in front of a I guess, on the edge of technology or, on the edge of doing something new. And that's exciting to kind of be a part of that and be at the ground floor and know that we have this vision and we know where we want to go. It's just about kind of getting to that next level.
Yeah. No,
so it's cool.
I think it's fantastic, man.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's going to sound like I'm going to be able to listen to you guys for years to come.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
100%.
Fingers crossed. Now, it does help that they need to play better football. But I think that, the big picture wise, it does feel like everything's headed in the right direction. I think that, you look back at this past year and as disappointing as 10-2 was at the beginning of the year and where they were coming from off the 6-7 season of Brent's first year, every person would have signed up for that. Yeah. It's just like the basketball team, as disappointing as it was, getting into the NCAA tournament was always going to be like that barometer. It was always going to be kind of the metric on, okay, is this thing getting better? And to fall a game short, I think it was that big of a gut punch to not get there. But, whether people want to hear it or not, they were probably a little bit better than I think anybody would have imagined at the beginning of the year. And, certainly they got the gut punch at the end. But we'll see. They need to shape up a little bit.
How do you want to be remembered?
I think that I want to be remembered for probably just generally being somebody that you could count on. Yeah. And somebody that, as much as I love to cut it up on Twitter and social media and stuff, there is like this certain element of seriousness that I do bring to the job every day that I think people probably don't really realize that I feel like work a lot. Yeah. And it's because it's not like, not looking for anybody's sympathy or anything like that. I've signed up for it. The hours are long. You miss a lot of, family get-togethers and birthdays and weddings and just, in general Saturday tailgating and being around it because I'm always working and I'm always doing something that usually involve, at least for my family, that they revolve around the OU sports scene and not being able to kind of be there and be a part of that. I miss it. But at the same time, I guess in a way you have to be a little bit selfish in this business and realize that you are going to miss some stuff, whether it be Christmas or, Thanksgiving or stuff like that. It's like, breaks my heart to have to tell my mom I'm not going to be there for Christmas. But at the same time, I think that, they've also been very understanding that it's part of the business. It's part of the game that we play in a way of going and covering these events and, going to San Antonio a week early for the Alamo Bowl that, I think a lot of people don't really care for, but it's a job that we do. And I think that, just knowing that we're always going to be there, we work our ass off to try to produce the most content or, the best content that we think viewers or readers or whoever subscribers are going to enjoy. And I think at the end of the day, if you can be happy about that, if you can put your head down at night knowing that, you've given it your all, I think you can be happy about that. So hopefully, people realize that, as much as I'd love to be this funny personality that a lot of people enjoy, at the same time, when there's something that's serious and something that, needs to be discussed and it needs to be covered, we're going to be there for it.
Man, I love that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Thank you.
That's spot on. So I can count on you to report, bring us good substance, good news, whatever that might be. I don't have to worry about load restrictions on you. You're going to play 88 games.
Every once in a while, I feel like I do need some load restrictions, and I certainly wish I was getting paid half the amount of money that some of these guys get paid to sit out. But I mean, it is like it's one of those things that I think that we take so seriously day in and day out, when in reality, it's like we're covering sports. Like at the end of the day, I know that it can be a lot. It can be heavy at times. Certainly for the Oklahoma football fan that feels like they've, failed or they haven't got to the peak of what they need to be. At the same time, it's sports. Yeah. And I think that like there is a release that, we get, particularly on the football side, you get 12 to 13 Saturdays a year. And we always kind of joke about it on the radio, but it's like, you spend so long getting to the beginning of August and the beginning of football season. And then by like September 20th, everybody's mad about, the running back that's not getting enough carries or the tackle that's not being made by the linebacker or whoever. It's like you only get 13 of these Saturdays a year. And they're usually the 13 most important Saturdays on the OU football calendar or the OU athletics calendar. Yeah. It's like at some point we have to enjoy it. But then again, I say that, and you still get angered by the way that they played in Lawrence, or you still get angered by the turnovers in Stillwater. It's like, it's little things like that you go back on. It's like, yeah, I guess that still does piss me off a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true, man. Hey, do you know, you kind of look like Bradley Cooper. You ever get that?
No, I haven't, but I'll take it. We need to clip that, put it out there on the internet. That's the nicest compliment somebody's ever said to me.
You do.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that.
He's a beautiful guy.
Yes.
I am, confident in my sexuality. And,
yeah.
Good looking guy's a good looking guy, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Hey, this is not a political question, but if you look in the camera, Eddie, do you approve this podcast?
I approve of it. Yes, absolutely.
My name is Walling Lamb, and I definitely approve this podcast.
I'm gonna stand. I won't be seated. Gonna hold my head up high and stay undefeated. Defining moments on this pod. 'Cause I'm American by the grace of my good God. I'm American by the grace of my good God. I'm American by the grace of my good God.